Fortnite Battle Royale is in a world of its own for many different reasons. Its developer support, its unique Battle Royale gameplay, its drama, and of course, its live events. Back in Season 4, when we saw the very first Fortnite live event, people everywhere had their minds blown when they watched the rocket launch live. And ever since then, Epic Games and the Fortnite team have been expanding and getting even crazier when it comes to their live events that are now almost like mini movies in a sense. These events are easily the best part of each new season, and with Season X coming to a close here in just a few days, the end event, as it's being referred to as in the in-game files, is anticipated to be one of the biggest events in the history of Fortnite in general. So today we are taking a stroll down memory lane and breaking down every single live seasonal event leading up to the end event here in Season X. Now, as I mentioned, the very first live event took place back in Season 4 with the rocket launch. But leading up to that, we had simply only seen weekly map changes and the meteor crashing in the season intro cinematic to really explain what was going on in the storyline. So the very first live event in Fortnite was something that was relatively unknown, and we didn't really know what to expect from it, which is why the event kinda broke the internet. Obviously, we had nothing to base the event off of in terms of standards, so once the rocket launched into the sky, the hype was at an all-time high. After being launched up though, to everyone's surprise, the rocket then turned around and aimed back down at the ground, right in the very center of Tilted Towers. This was something that everyone was worried might happen, but in the blink of an eye, the rocket vanished just before hitting the city, and it shortly reappeared on the complete other side of the map, where it continued to teleport around before finally blasting through Loot Lake and into oblivion through the sky, leaving behind a giant hole that we would later learn is called a rift. The ending of the rocket launch event then set us up for Season 5, as the rift in the sky varied in size all season long. But eventually, in its evolution, it would spawn a series of lightning strikes, purple lightning strikes to be exact, and that lightning would spawn in Kevin the Cube in the desert biome. For the remainder of Season 5, the cube would then roll around the island, engraving mysterious rune markings into the earth. And then, right at the very end of the season, the cube dipped into Loot Lake and seemingly melted away. But then at the start of Season 6, the cube rose from the ashes, or I guess the bubbles I should say since it's a lake, and he formed the floating cube islands. Throughout the season, the cube island then visited all the rune areas once more and corrupted them, raising them into the sky in preparation for the finale event, which commenced once the cube island returned back to the very center of Loot Lake. In what was known as the Butterfly event, the cube started spinning rapidly in between the Loot Lake Center Island and eventually combusted right before our very eyes, sending everyone in attendance into an alternative dimension where the rifts appeared in the form of butterflies. Thus, we dubbed this the Butterfly Dimension. After spending a brief moment or two in the Butterfly Dimension though, everyone was then returned to the main island, where Loot Lake was back in one piece and Kevin the Cube was nowhere to be found except for the fragments of him in the very center of the lake itself. Then things began to settle down for a bit leading up to Season 7, where the season started off with a bang, or really I should say a collision, since an iceberg from way out in the ocean ended up smashing into the island upon launch, completely changing the southwest portion of the map. Included in this iceberg biome came the addition of Polar Peak, which kind of stood out as the main location added in with Season 7, being that Polar Peak was the home to the Ice Castle, which housed the Ice King, who was technically the main character for the season. All season long, more and more mysterious things appeared from within the Ice Castle, like for instance the center table in the dining hall that had a seat tipped over, hinting at some kind of dispute taking place there, and of course, who can forget the dungeon? The dungeon of the Ice Castle was home to plenty of secrets, but those would really be presented to us a bit later on at the end of the season and at the start of Season 8. What made Season 7 a bit more special though, is the fact that we had not one, but two events take place within the season. We ended up getting a pretty cool crossover event in which we saw Marshmello perform during the very first ever live virtual concert held in Pleasant Park. Now this event was completely unrelated to the storyline and the season itself, but it is easily one of the coolest and most interactive events that we have ever seen in Fortnite Battle Royale history. While the concert was taking place though, trouble was brewing in the background as the Ice King was working on an evil plan to take over the Fortnite Islands, and this plan would actually be put into action at the very end of this season when the Ice King would use his special powers to cover the entire island in ice and snow. But in the meantime, the dungeon's secrets were slowly being released as the prisoner locked inside of a cube of ice actually escaped, taking with him the dragon eggs that also appeared in the dungeon as well. And that brought us into Season 8, where a volcano was added to the island thanks to the prisoner, who was eventually outed as the Fire King. The Fire King would use the volcano as his base of operations, while the Ice King still worked out of the Ice Castle, and the two continued to battle all season long, but that was not the only thing going on the island during that time. In the midst of all that, the Fortnite government was working on a secret project, if you will, to build a massive hatch in the center of Loot Lake in order to harness the power of the Nexus Orb. And at the end of the season, the orb's power was revealed as it rose from the hatch at Loot Lake and sent us into another alternative dimension to vote on a particular item to unvault and bring back to the island, hence the title, the Unvaulting event. The power of the Nexus Orb, though, was a bit too much for the island to handle, and it actually caused the volcano to officially pop its top, so upon voting the drum gun to be unvaulted, players returned to the island where the volcano began to erupt. And during this eruption, 3 places were damaged because of the lava and the chunks of rock. The first was Retail Row, it was completely destroyed. The second was Polar Peak, and it was only damaged. Then the third was Tilted Towers, and it was also completely destroyed, and that brought us into Season 9. At the start of Season 9, we were introduced to the Utopia theme across the map, as Tilted Towers and Retail Row were replaced with Mega Mall and Neo Tilted. And initially, we weren't sure what was going to happen later on in the season, but pretty quickly, all eyes, pun intended, shifted towards Polar Peak, where apparently the eruption of the volcano woke up a beast sleeping within the iceberg as an eye appeared at the very base of Polar Peak. As the weeks progressed, the eye began to follow players around as they wandered nearby, and eventually the monster broke out of the iceberg and fled to the ocean, leaving behind only some massive footprints. In the weeks following, the monster would then stalk the island from the ocean, teasing that the ice castle was still frozen on the top of its head, as the ice castle itself could be seen breaching the surface of the water in the distance. Eventually, though, the monster would return to the island with an intent to destroy the island and all of those on it. But in preparation of the monster's return, the Fortnite inhabitants built a mecha robot to fight against the beast, and that is exactly what happened. The monster and the robot duked it out for a few minutes before the robot would end up harnessing the power of the Nexus Orb and using the Singularity Sword to defeat the monster once and for all, bringing us into Season X, where the Nexus Orb's power actually froze time and caused a massive time warp. So, throughout the season, various rift zones appeared on the island, bringing back old locations like Retail Row and Greasy Grove, and even older locations like Tilted Town, which is a version of Tilted that we've never seen before. And later on, we found out that this was all possible because of the visitor who had returned on the meteor that was frozen in the air. All season long, the visitor brought back more and more rift zones, and also built another rocket launch site at his base in Dusty Depot. And it's here where the Season X finale event will likely start, as the rocket is presumably going to launch for a second time, and will likely target the Nexus Orb in an attempt to destroy the island, or at the very least, destroy the time warp. It has been leaked that the event will also be taking place this Sunday, so it could very well be the end of the Fortnite Islands. If you guys didn't know, we found a ton of files in the in-game files relating to a bunch of brand new points of interest, so it seems like we could actually be getting a new map in Season 11 because of the Season X finale event, so this is definitely an event you do not want to miss. Which Fortnite Battle Royale live event was your absolute favorite? Let us know down in the comments below. Personally, I thought the rocket launch was really the best one for a very long time, but last season the final showdown was seriously epic, so I think that stands as my new number 1 now. If you guys enjoyed the video, let us know by dropping a like rating on it, giving it a big old thumbs up, as it would be much appreciated. And of course, if you are brand new here to the channel and you like what you see, feel free to subscribe with your post notifications turned on. That way you'll always know when a new video goes live. As always, by joining the notification squad, every single time we post a new video here on the channel, YouTube will actually send you a message letting you know we've gone live. That way you can be the first person to watch, like, and comment on each and every new video. With all of that being said, that is effectively going to wrap things up for now. So thanks so much for tuning in, and until next time, take it easy, have an awesome rest of your day, and we'll catch you guys on the battle bus. Peace out.